Step out your front door in India today, and you'll see a fascinating economic collision. On one corner, there's a small, family-run grocery store. Right down the street, a towering office for a multinational tech firm sits next to a massive, government-owned railway station. This ecosystem is known as a mixed economy. It is a structure where privately owned businesses, government enterprises, and global corporations all operate side by side. But it didn't start out this way. In the years immediately following independence, the country faced a massive deficit. India desperately needed heavy infrastructure, steel plants, power grids, and sprawling transportation networks to kickstart its growth. The private citizens of a newly independent nation simply didn't have the immense capital required to build on this scale.
It was only half the battle. To actually run these operations without bankrupting the national treasury, the state had to invent entirely different structural tools to manage different types of economic problems. The oldest, most direct tool used is the departmental undertaking. Think of legacy systems like the Post and Telegraph Department or the railways. A departmental undertaking functions as an extension of a government ministry, funded entirely by the annual budget of the Treasury. Its revenues go right back into the Treasury, and its employees are government civil servants. Since they are woven deeply into the government structure, they require bureaucratic approval for almost everything. Heads of departments cannot make quick, independent decisions, leaving them bogged down by red tape and unable to take advantage of fast-moving business opportunities. To cut through that red tape, the state developed a second tool, the statutory corporation. These entities are brought into existence by a special act of Parliament. The act defines exactly what the corporation can do, granting it the authority of the government, but the operational and financial flexibility of a private business. They can borrow money, they can enter contracts, and keep their own revenues. On paper, this solved the bureaucratic delays. In reality, because huge public funds were involved, political interference remained a constant issue. The government still lacked a vehicle that could act like a private business and compete head-to-head in the open market. That gap led to the creation of the government company. These are established purely for business purposes, designed to operate in the true spirit of market competition alongside private firms. This chart shows how the ownership breaks down. Under the Companies Act, an organization is a government company if the state holds not less than 51% of the paid-up capital. This precise majority allows the government to maintain control while still bringing in private shareholders and operating under standard corporate rules. By the late 20th century, this massive state footprint became unsustainable. Many of these public enterprises turned into sick units, bleeding money and accumulating huge losses that the Treasury could no longer absorb. The crisis forced a radical pivot in 1991. The state initiated a disinvestment policy, selling off equity shares to the public and private sectors. Inefficient, sick units were sent to the Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction to be restructured or permanently closed down. The state's economic monopoly rapidly shrank. In 1956, 17 major industries were reserved exclusively for the public sector. Eventually, that number was reduced to just 3 highly sensitive areas, like atomic energy and rail transport. As the state withdrew from non-strategic industries and liquidated sick units, it left behind a significant market opening. This transition from a monopoly to a strategic competitor invited outside participation to sustain the economy. As India liberalized its economy, global enterprises, commonly known as multinational corporations, moved into the space left by the shrinking public sector. These organizations operate on a completely different scale. They bring gigantic capital resources, advanced technological capabilities, and a highly centralized control structure that spans multiple international borders. This environment paved the way for the joint venture, a model where domestic companies and foreign giants pool their resources to meet local demand. By combining their capabilities, an Indian company and a foreign multinational can share the commercial risks of a massive project. The domestic firm gains access to complex, updated technology, while the global player secures a foothold in a rapidly expanding new market. Looking at the entire system today, it's clear the economy is no longer entirely state-run or entirely privatized. It functions as a highly integrated machine. Public infrastructure, private innovation, and global capital now act as complementary gears, balancing the risks and driving the nation's growth.